It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions.
Well, at the age when most NBA players are just about reaching their prime, Jayson Tatum is already making history. He has surpassed a milestone that not many players attain, and it has people wondering how he stacks up against other greats at the same age. But Tatum isn't the only one who's shone bright early. Magic Johnson had one of the most impressive finals performances in NBA history when he was just 20 years old. Shaq was already averaging 29 and 13 by the age of 21, and Michael Jordan was second in MVP votes in his third NBA season. All things considered, where does Jayson Tatum rank amongst the greatest 27-year-olds to ever do it? How can you come up with a metric that quantifies an NBA player's greatness when there isn't one perfect and easy stat? Combining a few good stats and comparing them can help us come up with a convincing result for who shines the brightest. I decided to narrow it down to these 9 categories, and I think we did a pretty good job. We will take each player and rank them in each category based on their numbers before their 27th birthday. The player with the most combined points from all 9 categories will be considered the best 27-year-old of all time, and these are the players we will be assessing for our experiment. For the most part, we have some great players, but we also have players who had great starts to their careers. So now that we have our criteria, let's get into this. Our first category is MVP voting, a metric that truly showcases the star power of these young players. To do this, we summed up each player's MVP voting shares. To clarify, take David Robinson as an example. He received 11%, 50%, and 35% of the votes from 1990 to 1992. These percentages add up to 96% of the total votes accumulated by the end of that period. We perform the same calculation for every player and arrive at these numbers. Based on our evaluation, LeBron James takes the top spot, followed by Tim Duncan in second and Kevin Durant in third. Jayson Tatum unfortunately ends up at 39th place, sandwiched between notable players like Jerry West, Dirk Nowitzki, and Russell Westbrook. Our next category is All-NBA selections. We'll assign scores based on the type of selection they receive. 3 points for a first-team selection, 2 points for a second-team selection, and 1 point for a third-team selection. After adding up these scores, we find LeBron James and Tim Duncan atop the list, closely followed by Dwight Howard and Kevin Durant. Jayson Tatum makes the top 30, landing at 27th spot, with scores resembling those of Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson. Our third metric is win shares, which gauges a player's contribution to their team's victories through a comprehensive statistical analysis. We calculate the average win shares for each player before they turn 27. Unsurprisingly, the top 3 are Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, and Wilt Chamberlain, as one might expect given their exceptional impact during their early years. Similarly, we have playoff win shares, which specifically measures a player's impact in the playoffs. Surprisingly, this list differs from the regular season rankings, and it's the first time we see Tatum in the top 10 with a playoffs win share of 12.6. Despite only being 27, he already has 2 finals appearances and a championship under his belt, which is quite an impressive feat. Moving on, we have PRA, points, rebounds, and assists per game, representing a player's combined stats in these 3 categories before they turn 27. Unsurprisingly, this list is dominated by the early 1970s, with Wilt Chamberlain setting an almost unbeatable record. Next up is PER, a metric that quantifies a player's per-minute productivity during games. It takes into account metrics such as scoring, rebounding, and passing, and adjusts them for the league's average and pace of play. This helps give a comprehensive understanding of a player's overall impact on the game. If we're talking about dominating a game, no metric encapsulates that quite like this one. And the numbers speak for themselves, with Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, and Shaquille O'Neal at the top of the list. A player's impact isn't just about scoring. Defense plays a crucial role in winning games. To measure this, we use defensive win shares, a metric that quantifies a player's contributions on the defensive end and helps assess their overall value to a team. This list is dominated by big men, with Bill Russell, David Robinson, and Tim Duncan leading the way. Next up, we have VORP, Value Over Replacement Player. VORP measures the difference between a player's performance and that of a replacement-level player, which is essentially a below-average player who could be brought up from the minor leagues. This metric helps identify players who can thrive on any team regardless of their surrounding talent. At the top of the list, it's a two-headed race between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, with Julius Erving not far behind. For our final category, we have All-Star selections. As this award tends to have less variation in results, it will be weighted the least among all the categories. Some notable placements include Steve Nash with 0 All-Star selections, Steph Curry and Kawhi Leonard with 2, and at the top, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Anthony Davis, and Isaiah Thomas leading the group with the most All-Star appearances. And that covers it, all 64 players through each of our 9 different categories. So who came out on top? Which players cracked the top 20, and where does Jayson Tatum stand amongst the greatest 27-year-olds? If I was to ask you, what 3 NBA players have had the greatest start to their career? I think we would all agree that Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and LeBron James would be our first guesses. Considering that we strictly used numbers and statistics to build this list, I'd say we did a solid job. And one key takeaway, great players have always been great, which makes Jayson Tatum's position at 33rd particularly interesting. Not every all-time great starts out as an MVP caliber player. The career of Steph Curry serves as a prime example. Though he struggled in the beginning, he went on to win multiple championships and is now widely acknowledged among the top 10 players in the league. James Harden underwent a remarkable transformation, evolving from a 6th Man of the Year to an MVP within a few seasons. Meanwhile, Steve Nash transitioned from averaging just 4 assists per game to leading the league in assists for 3 consecutive years. On the other hand, some players peak early and struggle to sustain that level. Tracy McGrady went from leading the league in scoring to struggling to put up double digits before retiring at just 32 years old. And we all know the unfortunate story of Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP in history, later reduced to coming off the bench. The path of Jayson Tatum's career is uncertain. He stands at a crossroads, having achieved greatness already, but with his legacy yet to be cemented. At 27, he faces a crucial decision. Will he continue to rise and become an all-time great, or will his trajectory shift from this point onwards?